Hey folks, welcome back to DCS. Today join me back on Heatblur's Cold War server. I know, right? It's been absolutely forever since we've been on here, so why now? What's the crack? So lately I've been following their development progress and speaking to the team behind it, and I'm actually really excited about the direction that they're taking this in, but I feel like they're going to need a bit of help to get the ball rolling again because the server's been stagnant for so long, people just aren't joining it. A lot of people have probably unfavorited it. So this video aims to highlight the changes that they're making, the direction that they're taking, and why I think that this could be my new home server, just like it used to be in the glory days when we called it Enigma's Cold War. So what's changed? The biggest thing that they've changed, which has the most significant impact on gameplay, is a very gargantuan overhaul of the EWR system. So I'm just going to highlight that for you like bullet point style. So they've implemented true line of sight restrictions. So if there is something in the way between the radar source and the target, it will not see the target. It can't see through mountains, it can't even see through trees. They've simulated ground interference as well as trees blocking line of sight, which functionally means that if you fly low enough, you are literally invisible to radar. As well as that, the further you are from the radar source, the less accurate the report on your position will be. So let's say, for example, that you're right on top of the radar, you're going to be super close to it. It's going to give the enemies a very specific place to look to see you. But if you are 100 kilometers away from that radar, if you imagine how the beam from a flashlight will widen as it covers distance, if you're caught in the beam when it's wide, you could be anywhere in the width of that beam, so the accuracy will degrade with range. This can mean that, let's say that you're flying in form with someone, if you're sufficiently far from the radar, then you might display on the reports as just one single contact because of that inherent inaccuracy that they've built into it. They've also simulated radar cross-section, so depending on what you're flying, what your aspect is regarding the radar that's seeing you, that will change the detection range that you'll be visible at. And since remaining undetected is a very real possibility, helos can be seen by EWR on this server. Their operation lends itself to staying beyond the detection thresholds anyway, they tend to stay very low. So it's not the nerf that it sounds like. You're really only going to see a heli on EWR if they fly up a hill and skyline themselves at the top of it. As long as you stay around the base of the hills, it's basically not going to change too much. When you get your reports in the top right, the information it gives you will be different. So you don't get the contact type or the speed that it's traveling at. You just get the bearing, the range and the altitude, and the size of it. A lot of the information that you're given on other servers, it gives you enough to really strategize before you even get to the merge, but there'll be none of that here. You literally have to make visual ID before you can even know what the target is. You can make an educated guess based on the size that they give you, but sometimes that can be a little bit misleading, which might tie into the radar cross-section thing. But for example, I was flying the Phantom the other day and there was an F5 and a Vigan on my team. I did a friendly picture call. Both of those contacts were large, and I would not personally describe an F5 as large, but it could have been that the F5 was flanking and the Vigan was hot, in which case I could kind of see it. You're given less information, basically. Now, because of all these changes that they've made, the combined arms JTAG slot, which people traditionally use to act as a GCI, it can't visualize all these elements, so they've also developed a Hexmap browser extension, which is linked in the Discord, and all the instructions on how to use it are in there as well. It's quite straightforward, you just have to link Discord to the game. But that map is intended to be used if you're acting as GCI, so you don't need combined arms to act as GCI. The only requirement is that you're in the server, you've picked a coalition, but you haven't spawned yet. As long as you're sitting in the spectator window, if you like, you can use this hex map and it will show you where your team's EWRs are. It will show what they can see, and it will give you a visual representation of how strong the signal strength for that contact is. But you won't see the actual contact, you'll see a blob, and the blob will change size depending on range from the radar. But they have added GCI tools to that browser extension, so that you can just use that to GCI without having to buy combined arms, which I think is actually a really insanely good idea. And I'm interested to see where else they go with that. So how do these changes impact gameplay? Essentially what happens is that everyone tries to hide The consequences of being detected are therefore higher than normal because you'll be highlighting yourself specifically rather than hiding in plain sight within a cluster of other detected teammates. On other servers, hiding isn't generally an option because there'll be a lot more EWR sites that can be placed by players. There could be some hostile ones like within your own lines for all that you know. So it makes knowing what hill you can use to mask behind really difficult to do. So instead, the tactic is to, at least for me, I like to know where my teammates are so that I can stay in the rough vicinity of them, and then I'm always giving the hostile team more things to shoot at than just me. This all hinges on me accepting the fact that they are going to know where I am. On this server, there's a genuinely good chance that you could just stay completely undetected the whole story. And if nothing else, it gives you a better chance of success in an attacker that can't hold its own at the merge, because you can just fly in a way that's going to keep you undetected. So it gives you a lot of tactical options, but it also really raises the tension because you really don't want to get seen on EWR, because if you do, people are just going to turn their head in that direction and come running straight away. This opens up other tactics though, so you could intentionally pop up to draw attention to a certain area. You could then dive down and bog off somewhere else, draw the hostile fighters to a false lead, if you like. If you buddy up with an attacker, then your fire friend could fly off up high somewhere, whilst the attacker goes completely the other way. It opens up options that you just do not have on servers where EWRs are everywhere, and it's like a blanket system that covers every little facet of the whole map, and hiding is impossible. So from what I've said so far, you're probably thinking that it sounds quite a lot more hardcore than the other PvP servers that people frequent, but it's only really a struggle if you play without taking precautions. If you hang around up high, people are going to know that you're there. They're obviously going to come and shoot at you, but they could come and shoot at you by hugging the deck. They don't need to climb directly at you. They can stay really low, they can come up from underneath you, they can kill you without you ever even knowing that they're there. So the reason I'm making this video, or one of the reasons, is because my biggest fear for the future of this server is that people will hop in, they'll spawn in, they'll fly somewhere, and they'll die, and they'll have no idea how they didn't see the guy that killed them coming. And that's what I'm trying to outline to you right now. You have to think differently, and you might think, well, that sounds like a chore, that sounds difficult, but if you put the work in, the immersion, it's just better. I can't stop flying on the server, honestly, even though so far when I've been online the population has been like 10 people at most. If the server were full, it would be amazing. So played methodically, you have to find other ways to locate hostile players, because often the reports in the top right will not bring anything up. So instead you have to think about checking your RWR. I've got 21 on RWR 26, because if someone's pointing their radar at you, that gives you a bearing to see where they are. You can look for smokestacks. In the chat logs, there's a kill feed. So let's say, for example, I'm flying the Phantom and someone in an F1 bombs something. I would know that they'd bombed something. So I could look on the map, figure out where might they have taken off from, where might they have flown to within our lines to find something to bomb, and then I can fly to that location. I can look for smokestacks on the ground, burning wrecks, what have you, and I can just scour the land. I can fly really low, I can look up, I can look for people like silhouetting themselves, and that's how you're going to look for stuff. And on the other servers where helicopters don't appear on EWR, I basically will never see a helicopter, and that's because the EWR reports will always have something for me to read into and go for, because they can see everything everywhere apart from helicopters. But on this server, and you know, all of the helicopter players amongst you might be about to like wins, because this is not going to be much of a sales pitch, but I've found more helicopters on this server than I have ever found before, purely because they aren't detected. Because it makes me look for clues way more than I would be if I was expecting to be spoon-fed information all the time. So I'm looking for smokestacks, I'm looking for flares from ground troops that are asking for pickup, I'm looking in the chat logs for units being killed. I'm flying to areas where all those things are, and I'm just seeing helicopters. And you know, if you're in a helicopter, then I'm sorry, and that probably sucks quite a bit, but they could fly differently as well to avoid that kind of thing from happening by engaging from further away, dropping troops more towards their own line edge of the thing. not letting them sit for as long without pickup so that the flares can't be visible for as long. There's always a counterplay. So those servers that have all-seeing EWRs, they really shifted the skill curve away from actually playing the game, away from actually flying the plane, and they put more emphasis on the ability to quickly read a report and translate it into actionable intel. And the good players are the ones who can keep on top of everything in the reports, like simultaneously. And it becomes almost the same as having a data link system, which is just kind of broken, because you just wouldn't have that in jets of this era. So this EWR system on this server, it takes all of that away, and it kind of rebalances those players, and it pushes the skill curve back towards flying, observing, and like logic-based deductive reasoning that I just outlined for you. On Enigma's Cold War server, I was once able to do a 35 kill and 0 death session across about 7 sorties because I had a human GCI and an all-seeing EWR system. I would never be able to do that on this server, and I am excited by that because I like having to work hard for stuff. I think that if you have to earn it, then you appreciate it more, and it makes the satisfaction level very high. And satisfaction is basically what DCS is for me. It's not just about the combat, it's about micromanaging stuff, it's about managing the jet. I could play IL-2 or War Thunder for those things, but I can't do the management stuff as well, and that's why DCS has its hooks in me. And I feel like this server just grabs that and runs with it really well, more than other stuff does. So does the server have any other features? It does. A lot of them are carryovers from Enigma's Cold War server. So it has credit call-ins. You can call in an AWACS, seed, bombers, or repairs for the runway that you're at. To do this, you have to earn points, and you earn points by attacking ground units. It may be more complex than this, but a rule of thumb is it's 1 point per unit killed. Generally, these things don't cost a huge amount, but the AWACS is 80 points, which is a lot. That's because of how powerful the AWACS is. It can see over all of the terrain stuff that the EWRs can't, and it has a much, much, much greater range. So it costs a lot for a reason. The AWACS can be shot down, so make sure that you're thinking about defending it. And defending it should be quite easy because it should really, really highlight everyone making a beeline for it from as far away as possible. The seed will obviously bring aircraft in to attack airbases and knock out SAMs. They've, for blue at least, utilised the Heatblur A6 intruder for this. I don't know what they've done for red. For bombers, it will fly 4 bombers in to attack factory complexes within certain hex areas, and the repairs, it will remove all the craters from the runway. So if someone's flown over and bombed the runway to crap and you can't really use it, that's what the repair call-in is for. I think that the server staff do have plans to adjust some of this stuff and how it works, but for the most part that's the rule of thumb. Briefing. AWACS seed recon. Let's call a recon flight in, and then we can go and try and bomb the factory or the depot afterwards. So you type request in all chat. Request. Code 2913. So what you then do is go to the map, you click this, you put it where you want it, and you type recon 2913. So it says that I've ordered a recon mission over sector 1422. What can now happen is that plane will come in, it will fly over that area, and the enemy team can, if they want, shoot it down. What I don't know is where it comes from or how long it takes. The other things that are cost related are certain aircraft with certain weapons from certain air bases. So for example, the full fidelity MiG-29 and the A model Tomcat can both be spawned from the rearmost lines, but they cost 45 points for the fulcrum, and I think it's 50, might be 55 for the Tomcat. So that's a way of soft balancing it. But they've also made it cost points to spawn the Phantom in as well, under certain circumstances. I think that you can't spawn it at the front line, only from the middle and the rear bases. It's not expensive. I've basically had 100 points perpetually since I joined the server, because when you can't find stuff to shoot at all the time, you basically have to occupy yourself with ground attack, which is how you get points. So it's quite a good system because it promotes pushing the campaign forwards in a way that other servers don't, because often if you can see where all the enemy aircraft are, you can just prioritize killing them, and killing aircraft doesn't really ever push the campaign forwards because you're not doing anything for the ground war, you're not changing the logistical element of anything. But with this, you can't always find stuff to shoot at in the air, so in the meantime, whilst you're figuring out where they might be, you can go and hit an outpost or something, which helps to progress the ground battle. It honestly, it works really well. It's like piecing a jigsaw together. So to round the video off, I'm just gonna talk you through some anecdotal experiences that I've had that make me just want to keep playing the server. Basically, I had a really hard time making this video because I got into this sort of negative feedback loop where I'd play and then I'd enjoy playing and I'd generate a lot of footage, and then I'd think, it's going to take me ages to go through that footage. I don't want to edit just yet, so I'm just going to keep playing. And then I'd have more footage, and then the desire to edit would be even less, and it just kind of built up and up and up. And right now I've got about 5 hours of footage and quite a lot of anecdotal stuff to run you through. And it's taken me forever to put this video together. And the longer it takes, the less likely you all are to hop on the server, which sort of harms or could harm the server potentially long term. I just want to get this video out so that you go and have a go at the server, because it is so good, honestly. And I really want to give a shout out to all of the server staff involved in the process. So Asphalt, Brave Sir Robin, Potato Lord, Rabisaur, they are all the coders for the scripts that have been involved in sorting out the EWR stuff, the Hexmap Browser extension stuff, and then just like coding stuff like the credit call-ins, the point spawns for the aircraft, making sure that only certain aircraft can spawn in certain places for balancing sake, and all that kind of stuff. But then there's also Rabbi, Ild, Strokes, Eagle Eye, Parabellum. They're like active moderators, I guess you could say. I'm just skimming over what I've been told by Asphalt here. But really big shout out to all of the server staff, because this is new, this feels different. We're finally going in a different direction. In a way, I'm enjoying the fact that we're straying away from this whole text pop-up in the right EWR thing. It feels a bit like Alpen's Cold War used to feel before Enigma came along. And lately I've been playing more World War II and more War Thunder because I wanted a change of pace, because those two games, or those two environments in the case of World War II, they don't tell you everything all the time. You have to work it out for yourself. You have to find stuff through trial and error, through deductive reasoning, through like logic patterns and stuff. And that is satisfying in a whole new way, and this is the only server on DCS where you get that experience, and it's just refreshing. So, the anecdotal stuff. When I first hopped on the server the other day, I didn't know this at the time because I didn't know much of anything about it. I had not spoken to the server staff yet, but my team had no EWRs at all. And if I was on contention, or especially back in the day on Blue Flag 80s, and it turned out that the enemy team had wiped out all of our EWRs, it would have been genuinely pointless to even try and play, because they would have been, bearing in mind on all these servers the radar systems are like all seeing, right? So if your team didn't have any, and the enemy team did, you were just doomed. You would never be able to find anyone before they found you and killed you. They'd always start with an advantage. You'd be fighting a massive uphill battle. I used to just leave, and those servers used to just die towards the back end of campaigns whenever that happened, because it was just pointless to try and fight against. But on this server, when I first joined, that was exactly the case that I was faced with. Unbeknownst to me, I had no way of knowing that was the case, because you quite often get no information from the EWR pop-ups anyway, because everyone's trying to hug the deck and sneak around and hide. So I knew that if I didn't fly high, I'd stay invisible. So even though the enemy team had radars, I wasn't appearing on them. And it meant that I could fly around. I ended up teaming up with a random on SRS who was flying the Phantom, I was flying the F5. And together we would scout around and use our RWRs to locate targets, which just felt absolutely awesome. That's basically how it should be, rather than relying on a little text window to say, oh, this is where the target is, go kill it. And it makes you really fear climbing enough to get detected. So there was another anecdote. I was flying the MiG-29, We did have EWR coverage, and I knew that they did as well. So I was hugging the deck, I was flying around really low, and I actually visually found a target, which happens so rarely, it's insane. But because we were so low, there was a point where he started to disappear behind a hill, and I thought to myself, well, I could climb to retain visual contact, because if I go up, I'll be able to see over the ridge and I'll be able to keep following him. But I knew that if I did go up, I'd pop up on EWR and he would just turn in and we'd end up having a fight, and I didn't want to risk the plane because it cost 45 points. So I let him go to stay hidden. Now imagine that you're someone that's not super confident in dogfights, that you're not in a very capable aircraft for dogfights. What happened to me was I was in the best freaking plane on the server and I still didn't want to get detected. So if you're in that situation, you might get away with all sorts of stuff. You might get away scot-free, you might get seen, you might get detected, but the person that detected you might opt not to act on it for their own self-preservation, and that is not a dynamic that has ever happened ever on any other server that I've ever played in this game. It's just, honestly, give it a go. There will be a learning curve, you'll probably die horribly a few times. I did as well. I actually rage quit and I deleted the footage because I thought, well, no one's going to want to watch that. But I kind of wish I'd saved it so I could have talked you through why I died without knowing why I died, because it's kind of a necessary part of the process. When you understand that skirting the deck and sneaking around is the way to go, that's basically the essence of the server. And there's just so many layers of complexity. I want to be playing it right now instead of making this video. I might try and set up a Discord event where we all get on there, because I really, really badly want the server to take off. I just need you all to learn enough about it, hopefully through these videos, that you don't get frustrated and just rage quit. Because that's my biggest fear, the biggest hurdle, I think, for getting it to go somewhere. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for watching. Check out the links in the description to help support the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.